After much criticism, some U.S. colleges are finally cutting their tuition. Oberlin College in Ohio, for instance, is reducing the bill for all new students by $10,000. Davidson College in North Carolina is freezing its tuition. All this as coronavirus upends college campus life, enrollments, and finances for families and for the schools. So let's take a step back and get a read on what one higher education institution is doing to adjust to this new reality. I'm excited to welcome Cornell University President Martha Pollack. She joins us from Ithaca, New York. President Pollack, I need to start with the first question. Is Cornell planning on adjusting its tuition next year? I wonder if you can give us a sense of the kinds of conversations that are taking place on this.
Yeah, well, our process of tuition setting is underway. This is the time of year in which we're modeling our costs and our needs and what we think our students need, and we meet with our Board of Trustees. And as always, we will be reporting on next year's tuition sometime earlier in the spring, early next spring.
All right, so it's in the works at the moment here. The fall semester is in the books. Schools including Harvard, Princeton, and Brown plan to bring more people back to campus, and I believe Cornell as well, about 1,500 more students on campus in the spring than in the fall. How will the spring semester at Cornell differ from what you saw in the fall?
Well, we actually invited all of our students back for the fall, and in fact, 80% of the undergraduates did come back. We had a little bit of very slightly more leave of absence than normal, but only maybe half a percentage point more. 80% of our students came back, and the rest studied off campus, and we were very successful at controlling infections. In the period from the beginning of the semester through Thanksgiving, when they all went home, we had less than, or maybe just over 200 infections on a campus of, in total, about 28,000 people, so less than 1%. Therefore, our spring semester is going to look a lot like our fall semester. We'll do arrival testing for every student. We'll do universal surveillance testing. Undergraduates get tested twice a week. Graduate students and employees every week or every other week. We're going to have lots of socially distanced requirements of social distancing and mask wearing and hybrid classes. All the things we did in the fall, we're going to do again in the spring because it worked for us.
Right, but no spring break, no study abroads, and no in-person student activities, right?
Well, there won't be a traditional spring break because we don't want our students to travel, but we will have two mini two-day sort of wellness breaks. And we do have some, early in the semester, we'll have very strict limits on the kinds of extracurricular activities. But as was the case with the fall, as the semester goes on, once we know that the students are here and they're being tested and the level of virus is under control, we'll start to open up some more of those student activities.
What have you learned, President Pollack, about managing the pandemic on campus? What worked? And what didn't work?
So what works, quite honestly, is following the science. We put in place those practices that are known in public health to be best practices. Central to everything was our testing program. We built our own laboratory, the Cornell Coronavirus Testing Laboratory. We housed it in our veterinary school. It was able to do up to 7,000 tests a day and get the results back to us within 24 hours, and that was very important. We made testing easy. That was really crucial. We had 9 sites. You could walk into those sites. I go in, I'm out in less than a minute. You do it under supervision, but you do what's called interior nares, the front of the nose, not that, way up at the brain kind of swab. So it's easy to test. We had supportive quarantine and isolation. We provided students with the support they needed when they went into quarantine and isolation. We did what we call adaptive tracing. We went well beyond the CDC guidelines. CDC guidelines says you're a contact if you've been within 6 feet of someone for 15 minutes over the day. We did more than that. If someone was in a class, we tested everyone in the class. And by the way, we saw absolutely no transmission in our classrooms. And then lastly, we trusted our students. Everyone said that students couldn't possibly behave. They were amazing. They were amazing. They wore masks. They socially distanced. 18 to 20-year-olds can sacrifice for the greater good. That's something we learned.
Never underestimate how compliant your students can be and how devoted they are to being on campus. I should actually call you Dr. Pollack, President Pollack, because you have a PhD in computer science. Apparently, that's controversial in the year 2020. How outraged are you about this idea that a woman who has earned a PhD should consider stowing away that degree?
A PhD it's hard to get a PhD, and the idea that we somehow should call medical doctors Dr. Smith, but people who get PhDs in other fields Ms. Smith, has always been just a little bit of an irritant to me. But the main thing is, don't call me kiddo.
Yes, agree with that. President Pollack, Dr. Pollack, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.